It's being reported by Colin Cowherd that an NFL executive told him Steelers really like Jalen Milroe, would take him in the first round. Here's how I feel about this. If the Pittsburgh Steelers said, we are going to take a quarterback in the first round no matter what, we're taking one, I only want a guy that played in the SEC. Whether it's Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart or whoever it might be, if he didn't come out of the Southeastern Conference, I would not want him. And I'm going to tell you why. This year's quarterback class is so weak, it's really bad. I mean, this is probably the worst quarterback draft class in the history of the NFL. Literally the worst. So I'm going to want a player that played in the best division in college football, because an SEC defense is the closest thing you're going to see to an NFL defense. You know, Shedeur Sanders, when he played at Colorado, and you see how he did against Oregon and BYU, and he got completely dismantled, just looked absolutely horrible. What do you think an NFL defense is going to do to Shedeur Sanders? I don't want to hear about the rest of the team. Shedeur Sanders holds onto the ball too long. He sways out of the pocket. He doesn't step up clean into the pocket. He has a lot of faults, and it shows on tape. If you just watch the tape, stop listening to ESPN, watch the All-22 film, watch the Oregon game, watch the BYU game, probably even the USC game also, he's not a good quarterback. I don't want to hear that I don't like his father. That has nothing to do with it. So I'm going to go, because the class is so weak, I am going to go with the two players, or the players that played in the best division in college football, which is clearly the SEC. What Colin Cowherd had to say. I talked to an NFL exec last night, very well connected, and this is a keep your head down on a swivel. Aaron Rodgers. I'm told the Steelers really like Jalen Milroe. 21st pick, first round. So if Aaron signs with Pittsburgh, it's going to be Kirk Cousins, Cowherd said. They're taking a quarterback. If the 21st pick, Milroe's not taken, Pittsburgh is leaning now and taking him. I mean, I said his name wrong. Jalen Milroe is a huge individual. He ran a 4.36 or 4.37 at his combine. Excellent speed. I mean, frightening speed for a guy that size. I watched 2 of Alabama's games, and I don't know. I just don't see the accuracy there. You know, he'll step up in the pocket and he'll run, but he holds onto that ball for a long time too, and that's always a problem in the NFL. As an NFL defense, I want quarterbacks to run. Everybody can run in the NFL. I'm going to hit you sooner or later. This Jalen Milroe, to me, seems like an experimental type guy. I mean, listen, I know he was a starter at Alabama, one of the biggest schools in the country, but I am not. When you draft a quarterback in the first round, you better be completely sold. He better have put up number. There should be no questions that this quarterback can function in the NFL. He better be Matt Stafford. He better be Troy Aikman if you take him in the first round. He better be that good. And I watched 2 or 3 Alabama games, and I came away thinking to myself, he's an average quarterback. That's my honest opinion. Sometimes teams, though, you know, I know Colin Cowherd reported this, but sometimes teams play games before the draft. They purposely leak lies and try to make it seem like they're taking a player when they're really not. For whatever the reasons are, you'll never know. I'm not saying it's not a possibility, but there's always a potential that this is just a complete lie and the Steelers are playing games. I would rather the Steelers wait till next year to draft their first round quarterback. We just need to tough it out. Sometimes you need to take a step back to go 2 steps forward, and I don't think this is the year that the Pittsburgh Steelers should take their quarterback. Adam Schefter reports, Art Rooney involved in quarterback search. Steelers didn't offer a first rounder for Stafford. Adam Schefter went on to say, ownership's been involved in all this. Schefter told ESPN Stephen A. Smith during a spirited first take discussion Thursday, they've been involved. They were in on Matthew Stafford. Let's not pass the ball to management. This is ownership too. With Matthew Stafford, you know what? At some point in time early on, the Pittsburgh Steelers could have gone all in and said, you know what? We're going to give up a first-round pick. Schefter said, is that what they wanted to do? No, not for a 37-year-old quarterback, but they could have done that. They opted not to. They did not offer that. Oh, I don't know. I think they could have gave up this year's first-round pick. I think Stafford's arm is top. He's got a big time arm. I think he can definitely still play till he's 40, 41 years old. In next year's draft, you could have got your first round quarterback. I think this was a mistake by the Steelers. I sometimes I don't understand the logic with their decision making. Matt Stafford was a pass away from beating the Philadelphia Eagles to go to the Super Bowl. So he's a hell of a player. He's got a rocket for an arm. He's got a sturdy frame. He's not injury prone. I think he's got a good 3-4 more years left. I think this was a mistake by the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they should have gave up this year's first round pick. And if you wanted to get that guy next year, meaning a quarterback, you could have did that. You could add Matt Stafford, train him and teach him the ropes. I'm really surprised. I knew that they were in the market for Matt Stafford, meaning the Steelers. I didn't know that if they gave up a first-round pick, they could have got him. And I think that's a mistake. Because if you had Matt Stafford right now going into this year's draft with Mason Rudolph as the backup, the organization is in very good, calm waters. So the defensive tackle class is stacked. You could have went second round, third round defensive tackles back to back. You could always get a receiver later on in the draft, even though I love Ibuka to death. But Matt Stafford is a rare talent. He is a Troy Aikman type talent. I think this was a big mistake by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Florio appeared on 93.7 The Fan on Wednesday. He was asked if the Steelers would be viewed as a success with a singular playoff win in 2025. Of course he would. They haven't won a playoff game in 9 years. I think how you could go out becomes important to what was expected when we get to January. Florio said, if the Steelers, do what they've been doing the past decade, fighting, scratching, clawing, getting to the playoffs and win a wild card game, hey, we did better with Aaron Rodgers than we've otherwise done. It would be a relative in terms of success to what we've seen since they beat the Chiefs. If the Pittsburgh Steelers don't sign Aaron Rodgers when the season ends next year, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to look back and say to themselves, they should have gave up that first round pick for Matt Stafford. I think that's a huge mistake. I mean, unless you can live with another mediocre season of going 8-9, Julian Edelman also encourages Aaron Rodgers to sign as soon as possible to build chemistry with new team. This is what Julian had to say. If I was Aaron Rodgers, I wouldn't want to get in the same predicament as I got into with the Jets, Edelman said Thursday on his Dudes on Dudes podcast. Very interesting podcast name, to say the least. You get there kind of late. You don't really practice that much, and all of a sudden the season comes out and we're not looking like we need to be looking because we're not on the same page. Whenever he's going to sign, I would sign as soon as possible so you can learn the players around the team that you're going to be playing with. If you watch last year on the Jets, I think week 8 on Aaron Rodgers played pretty damn good football. That's because he started to learn his players, I feel. I mean, it's an excellent point. You have to start working with the players that you're going to play with, and you can't let any more days go by. I'm sure, though, that the Steelers told Aaron Rodgers to take his time because they wanted him fully committed. I'm totally on board with Julian Edelman said. You need to get your quarterback in the building. Let's get on the same page, and let's get rolling.